it's Romania Black, and before we start this episode, I realized last week I was in a place. I was in an emotional place with this series. So I've talked to Be Happy about this, and I wrote this all out because I think that's the best way for me to get through it. But I've honestly been struggling with this show so far, and I've been trying to pinpoint why. It's not that it's a hard show to understand. I mean, aside from the mystery angle of it, I think I've been picking apart the symbolism and narrative themes perfectly fine. So it's not that. And it's not that it's bad. No, the series far from it. I really like how it's visually telling the story, and it's clearly high quality. It's like a lot of shows that I'm watching right now. So I've been trying to figure out, why is this show not clicking? And I think I finally figured out what it is. So it's the fandom that I'm interacting with in the comments and the aura that is surrounding the support for the series. And what I mean by that is, it's not one individual person, but I usually like engaging with the comments. It's why I made this channel, so I could talk to people about anime and about the shows themselves as I watch it. And people usually help me gain a better appreciation for the characters, for the show, the symbolism, and everybody's vibes are usually positive. I mean, you get a bad apple in there, but that's with any reaction channel. And the hype for the show itself is always there, right? So, but I noticed, I went back and started from the beginning of the series, and I started out really enjoying the series. I was analyzing it, I was breaking it apart. I really was enjoying it. But then I noticed over the weeks, it started to fade, and it wasn't that the show was getting bad necessarily, but the interactions with people in the comments and on the Discord and everything was starting to get to me. And, I'm talking with the mods, and they've confirmed this, because I've had this suspicion, and I don't want to come across as rude. I'm not meaning this. This is not everybody. Obviously, there's been some amazing commenters, but there's this kind of elitist is a strong word, but it's a vibe where I have felt that I'm not doing good enough with the reactions, and I'm not living up to people's expectations. And I think now, thinking hard about it, it's because when I've interacted with the fandom, aside from people being very kind and just saying that they enjoy the reactions, which I'm never going to turn that down. Y'all can keep that praise coming. But I'm very transparent. I'm very appreciative of it. But, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, thank you. But, I'm really appreciative of that. But aside from that, I mean, who would turn that down? Most of it feels like people are either trying to correct what I'm saying, or they're trying to clarify rather than let me experience on my own, or they're trying to push why the show is so great. Like I'm not getting it, right? And it's not much different than it is for other shows that I've watched, but if I've tried to be honest or express my opinions of why something isn't clicking, instead of just letting it go and instead of just saying, oh, well, it's fine, instead of that, I've been met with a lot of resistance and a lot of, well, you just don't understand yet, or, well, you're wrong because, and even if it's not been those exact words, the tone and the vibe in some of the comments has come across, I don't want to say it's condescending because that's a harsh word and I'm not meaning that, but it's made me feel like it's my fault that I'm not praising the show enough or recognizing its quote unquote genius. And that's just how it makes me feel. And regardless of the intent, that's been the vibe that I've been getting from it. And it's really emotionally affected how I interact with this series. And I want to enjoy this show, as gloomy and despairing as it is, but I feel that as a reactor, I have every right to not enjoy it. And for the first time on this channel, people in the comments have been acting almost as if my critiques are insulting the series, which isn't the case. The praise that people have told me just isn't matching what I'm seeing so far. And that's been the problem. Everybody's like, well, you'll understand. I'm like, why can't you just let me experience the series? And so I've tried to say that, but the comments and responses are not reflecting that, and it has been driving me insane. And last week was like a breaking point. And then I also realized, back with Kuroko's Basketball, if you've watched that series on this channel, there was this character and I didn't like them. And I got a lot of pushback in the comments from the fandom telling me that I should like them. And they were trying to give me all these reasons I was wrong in my opinion. But here's the thing. With me, if people try to force me to like something, I will just push back even harder and I will dislike it even more. And I think that's what's happening with this show. it's not that it's bad, but the engagement I'm having is trying to force me to praise it and recognize it as amazing rather than see my opinions change naturally as I watch, which hopefully it will and very well may. I may end up loving this series, but it's making my view right now of the show as a whole to the point where it's literally become Akashi the show. And that disturbs me. Like, it's just like my mindset about this one character from Grogu's Basketball has encompassed this entire series. And that's not fair to the series, right? It's not, because it's a good show. It's just not clicking with me yet, right? I'm just not getting it. And here's the thing, I am getting it. I'm understanding the themes. I get the symbolism. I get the characters. That part's not hard. It's just me trying to figure out what makes it as amazing as people say it is. And I'm just not there yet. And instead of people letting me naturally encounter the series and grow, they're trying to like tell me how I should be getting it. And that just like that poking and prodding has really mentally affected me with watching this series to the point where I just didn't want to anymore, right? So I told the moderators that for the first time on this channel, I'm going to stop reading comments and see what happens. At episode 8, I didn't want to keep watching because people were trying to spoil me and clarify and correct instead of just letting me do what I've asked. And so I kept going. And then at episode 11, the show was just so dour and I just didn't understand the hype. And I wanted to stop again. I'm not going to lie. Episode 11 was very upsetting to me, obviously for the plot. Sheen's dead. But it was really hard to get through the discussion because, again, the show to me at this point isn't living up to the insane praise that I feel, and it makes me feel like I'm missing something when that something is that people aren't giving me time to see it as a whole. So I'm going to give it one more try. Third time's a charm. And I'm going to make it through the season and see if I can grow to like the series more. But to do that, I can't read any more comments. So because I'm not enjoying myself reading them, and honestly, the last few weeks, each inbox notification filled me with dread. Like I was waiting for somebody to just almost yell at me or tell me I was wrong or how I wasn't getting it. And who wants to watch a series when you're being told you're not understanding it correctly? You know? So I'm going to explain this all here. I'm going to try to keep up one episode at a time. With my schedule to stay on track with the other dozen shows, you know, I can't watch more than one episode at a time. It's just not going to happen. But I want to give this show a chance. But at this point, I want to at least try to do it justice because people clearly like it. And I want to give it a fair shot. I don't want to hate this show, not because of what it is, but because of how the fandoms made me feel about it. So I'm still going to pop into the Discord and post my screenshots that I have. I'll still pop in for those. And maybe once I get to a point where I feel comfortable going back, I will. I'm not going to say I'm going to stay away from comments forever, but for right now, I just can't. So, and I'm going to ask the mods if I get into the Discord to check for me ahead of time and be like, hey, is everything cool? Am I good to go? So I hope all that makes sense. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Thanks for coming to that. But that's just how I felt. And honestly, I thought really hard about giving this show up and just shelving it and waiting a month and just coming back to it. But then I was like, I know me. Once I shelve it, I'm not going to come back to it. I'm going to get busy with other things on my channel and then I won't care. So I'm going to give it a shot. I don't know how long the discussions will be. If I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. I think that was another thing too. I wanted this, everybody had kind of hyped this up to be the next Attack on Titan. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be in these like hour-long discussions and 2-hour-long discussions with the series. And it wasn't happening because I felt like I explained everything that needed to be explained. And I didn't want to just sit there and BS for an hour. And then I was like, well, am I not doing it right? Because everybody makes me feel like I should have tons of stuff to talk about. Somebody had said before I started the series, they're like, oh, you'll love 86. Like one reactor spent 2 hours in the first episode breaking it down. And then when I didn't make 2 hours, I was like, am I not getting something? But I think I am. I don't think I'm missing anything thematically or symbolism to talk about. It's just, that's all there's just to talk about. So I'm not going to guarantee each discussion is going to be an amazingly long discussion, but I'm going to be fair to it. And I'm going to break it down as well as I can, but that's all I know how to do. So thank you for still watching. I feel really bad because last week was awful. Last week, I almost didn't want to post it. I was like, I'm really upset during this whole reaction. This is just not a good time. And I felt really, really bad. But I wanted to be transparent in that reaction and show you all my frustration so that you can see firsthand how it's affecting me mentally. Because last week was rough. I mean, not just the fact of Sheen has been decapitated and is now part of Legion, which sucks. And Lena has no clue, which sucks. And my potential ship is gone, which sucks. But what do we do? What do we do? So I guess we have to move on. I guess Sheen and all of them are dead. And we just got to move on from there. I don't know how they could be alive. We literally saw him in the image with his head chopped off, so I don't know how they could be alive. Unless they managed to escape from the battlefield, but I don't know how that's possible, so... I just want it to live up to the hype thereby gives it praise for, and I just have to get there. So I appreciate y'all being patient with me. This has never happened on this channel. I love shows that are like this. This show just hasn't been clicking with me, but I'm hoping if I just stay away from the comments and stay away from the fandom, that will help me. I think that might be the case. We'll see. But I don't have Mevelin's fans translation for this one. They told me I could watch it on streaming for this episode. We're technically at the halfway point, so why not? I was told something, though. The moderators did tell me. They were like, hey, the Discord believes that for episodes 12, 13, and 14, you should not watch the OP. So we're clearly changing OPs, right? Which I kind of guessed that last episode, which makes sense. But they told me that they would prefer I not watch the OP for episodes 12, 13, and 14, which is fine. I did that for Attack on Titan. There was a season of it that I didn't watch the OP for like 7 or 8 episodes, so I can do without for 3. That's fine. We can do that. So the editing on here may be a little bit funky, a little bit different, maybe a little bit out there, so just letting y'all know, but that's kind of where we're going to be at. All right, so I'm going to skip the OP for the first couple episodes and just go from there. Okay, so with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into episode 12 of 86, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, that was resolved rather quickly. I think I kind of understand one thing that I don't like about this series, and I will be very honest about it. It is the emotional manipulation that it's doing, and it's getting a little bit to the point where it's repetitive enough that it's starting to take away the stakes. And I know what it's doing because it's happened 2 or 3 times now where they end the episode, you think it's the most doom and gloom scenario. You get all worked up. You think, oh my God, what's going to happen? How are they going to get out of this? They're all dead. And then the next episode, you're just like, oh, never mind. They're not. They're perfectly fine. This new thing's happened that saved them. And it's gotten a little old. Because I was like, what do you mean? There's some things I'm like, I'm not sure I believe whatever is being given in front of me. And because it doesn't kind of make sense. And I'm like, show. So either the show is doing this whole like bait and switch where it gets you to get all emotionally worked up. And then it's like, oh, never mind, they're fine. And you're like, well, that doesn't freaking make sense. Why would you do that? Or it seems like it's this impossibly dire situation. Like they were literally on the battlefield dying. Sheen looked like he had his head chopped off. And suddenly he's fine. No head chopped off. That doesn't make sense. Unless the show was just trying to tease you and make you and manipulating you to think something bad happened when it didn't. And I'm like, well, show, I don't like being manipulated. Either do the damn thing or don't, you know? So I'm getting a little old with that. That part's getting a little frustrating where I'm like, because what's going to end up happening is I'm not going to sense any stakes. I'm like, oh, this dire cliffhanger, they'll be fine. And then I'm waiting for the show to finally decide, oh no, they're actually going to die. And I'll be like, darn, it's just taking away my sense of stakes with the show, because if they survived that whole Legion attack, they've survived the Legion attack against the brother. That battle took 10 minutes. They survived the thing with Fido. They managed to make it out. Yeah, it's happened 3 times. First was the battle with Sheen, which someone in the comments before I stopped reading did say that episodes 1 through 9 were the first novel. And I'm like, well, that all makes sense. And that's the one she was, she made before she had the contract to keep going with the novels. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense because episodes 1 through 9 feel like a season. They feel like a story. And if it's all in one novel, that makes sense. but that does give you constraint and limit with your narrative. And so it's like, okay, well, that's all encapsulated. Now we're going on to the next story. But I don't know. It's happened 3 times so far where it's been like, in the battle with Sheen and his brother, it was like, oh no, they're going to their death. How will they ever survive? And then they beat Sheen and they beat Ray in 10 minutes. It wasn't even much of a battle. It was like, okay, well, that's over. And then the second time around, Fido, it's when episode 10 ends, you see Fido getting blown up and you're like, oh no, they're all gonna die. No, they all made it out perfectly fine. They just only had one Juggernaut left. And you're like, okay. And then this last time, the very next episode, Sheen seemingly gets decapitated. They're all dead on the ground, but don't worry, they're fine. They're now in Giad with this president and everything's okay. And I'm like, show, this is getting old. So I'm like, make up your damn mind. Are you gonna have these characters die or are you just gonna be a cock tease? Like, come on, let's go. So that part does frustrate me a little bit because now I'm like, wow, I got all worked up and that was the resolution. Okay. We're gonna talk about it. A part of me feels like they should all be part of Legion and decapitated and this is all a big illusion. That's because it seems too good to be true, right? It seems too good to be true. And we're going to talk about that. Something's off. Something's still not right. And the show is trying, I don't know what the show's trying to do. Lena's part of the story I'm all about. It's interesting. But the whole stuff with Giad taking them under their wing and all this, I'm like, it feels a little hokey. It feels like it's either hiding some big thing or I don't know. We'll talk about it. I felt kind of, I don't know. I didn't feel let down by this episode because I'm glad Sheen's alive, but I feel like the show was very manipulative to make you think that he was dying and that he was dead and part of Legion. And then they're like, oh no, silly you for thinking that. And I'm like, no, show, you bitch. Why'd you do that? That was dumb. Stop that. Stop that. I'm almost mad that the show didn't have the balls to follow through with it. It's like, if you're going to make it that dour, but then you back out at the last minute, it's like, stand up and have the balls to do it, or don't do it at all, damn it. Be better. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like that at all. Let's take the volume off. So, an update on the war. When I skipped the intro, it kind of skipped over this part here. So we have the very pristine St. Magnolia here, talking about our nation's autonomous Juggernaut units have intercepted the Legion's mechanized infantry drones. Okay, so we'll talk about over in San Magnolia. We'll talk about them. Okay. Yes. So over in San Magnolia, we had basically the Juggernauts. They called them like dinosaurs there, which is interesting. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Intercepted infantry drones. Okay. So we got that. Fair enough. All right. And dealt critical damage and forced them to withdraw. And the combat of highly advanced, ethically responsible drones, yes, of course, has resulted in 0 fatalities. Imagine that. Yep. And the day when our righteous nation finally smashes the evil remnants of the wicked empire is not far off. And it's like every day, every story is just the same. Every morning is just the same. I feel like I want to sing Belle from Beauty and the Beast every time Lena goes to work because it's just like, bonjour, good day. Like it's just the same humdrum, the same message, the same stuff over and over again. And she's just like, whatever. I love that she I don't know if she dyed the little strip of red in her hair. I don't know if she dyed the little strip of red or if it's like a clip on and she clipped it into her hat. I don't know what she did. I like it. I eventually want her to get strands of all of them. Also, can we go ahead and say, if we're talking about color and symbolism, there are 5 colors in the San Magnolia flag. There are 5 remaining 86 members. There is Sheen and Raiden and, what's her face? Crap, not Alba. Oh my gosh, Emma. Yes, her name is failing me now. We haven't heard her name in a long time. Theo and then Karina. Those 5 are the 86 there. So it'd be cool if she ends up with clip-ons of all the colors in her hair, but her hair's white, so maybe she just need the 4. Yeah, I like Lena is this embodiment of kind of the queen here, which we have different characters here. So we'll talk about Lena, talk about Sheen, and talk about our girl. Oh, what's her face? She is the Empress. Frederica. Yes. Frederica. Now, she was called Princess in the last episode, which was the fan translation. So maybe this streaming service's interpretation as Empress is supposed to be Princess. She was the princess that Sheen saw from the Legion that was supposed to protect her and was trying to kill everyone else. He said he would kill everyone else. The women, the message that Legion was spreading is very different than what the Federacy president of Giad is spreading. So that's interesting. But yeah, I find it really, we're at the halfway point and it just, everything restarts. She's back to square one. She sees the same drunks that are the commanders on the job. It's the same as the doll crushing princess. Now they call her doll crushing princess, which is interesting. And they're like, I heard you had another victory against the Legion threat today, stained with the blood of pigs. That's why they call her Bloody Regina, the Bloody Queen. Yeah, it skipped part of this in the intro. Did you learn to tell the difference between men and pigs? So Lena is being called the Bloody Princess Regina. Interesting that we have two princesses here, right? On either side. Fascinating. All right. I wouldn't give these guys the time of day either if they were just being assholes, you know? Wouldn't have given them the time of day. She never changes her expression. And they're just like talking about getting demoted for the sake of those pigs. Okay, so she did get demoted and wearing a black uniform when no one else does. Lena's a trendsetter. She's wearing black in mourning. Love it. Black to mourn them. And so she was demoted from Handler 1. We don't know yet what division that she's in. It makes sense she was no longer in Division 1. She kind of like not only went off the grid and went to Spearhead, but she also like did all these other things without permission. So it's not surprising she got demoted. Yep. And they say again, the Legion won't even be around in 2 years. And we see the little crack, like the little symbolism things I like the little crack in the fountain there, showing the crack in the base there, and it's in the foundation of the fountain, so it's talking about the crack there. And then I love that she goes against this. I like the sword is pointing one way, and she goes against the sword, right? And they say her family is rich and famous, so if she had done nothing, she could have lived a life on the easy street. So like she could have just done nothing and it had been fine. I like the idea of San Magnolia's statue pushing forward and Lena's going against it. Visual representation of what she's doing in this story. It's all there. Good work. So yeah, and then she comes across Annette and they both are like, good morning. But it's clear, like, I like the idea that both of them, it's kind of like they can't go back to the way things were because they've done this. They've tried to help the 86. They both know Sheen's probably dead. So they think, and as far as they know, they're all dead and they just have to keep moving forward. But I like that Annette and her are working together. I like it. And she's like, there's something I want to check up on from what you asked. The additional settings on the RAID device. Okay, so let's talk about the, there's additional settings. Additional settings. I'm assuming that she's using this right now with the RAID device and the way that she's interacting with the squadron that she's with now. I'm assuming that that's the case with them. And she's like, yeah, I'll be there in 2 hours. And she's like, sure. I like Annette's little smile there at the end because they come across at the beginning kind of cold, like they're distant. But then Annette gives that little smile like, Lena's going to do what Lena's going to do. I'm going to do my thing. I like they're working together, seemingly. That's pretty cool. They're both working together to fight against the Legion. I like Annette's getting involved. That's good. That's a good friend on her. And then she tosses the jacket and there she goes off to do her thing. I noticed the one lieutenant colonel, he puts the Captain Melise in quotation marks, like they don't take her seriously. She's been demoted. She's not Handler 1 anymore. She's done all these things. There's kind of this duality of where the younger officers are like, well, she's from this prominent family. Why doesn't she just skate the easy life? And why does she like put herself in these situations? And then you have the upper brass that just kind of don't view her seriously at all because they think she's just there because of nepotism. So, and they don't want to acknowledge her and give her power. But Lena's just kind of like, you know what? Screw it. if my friends all died, I'm just gonna do whatever the hell I can, and I'm not gonna take shit from anybody. And I love that. I love that Lena's just taking matters into her own hands, playing the system for all that she is, just playing the political system and playing the game. And she does it quite effectively here. Also, this guy with this giant ass portrait of him and her uncle shaking hands, like, seriously, dude? And she's like, unauthorized use of howitzers and unscheduled supply drops. As he's sitting there, like, filing his nails, like he couldn't be bothered. Yeah. And she's just like, screw it, I'm going to keep doing it. Taking direct to command of units that are not below you. Do you know how many complaints I'm getting? I like that we see a picture of his son there. I like that there is this establishment of him complaining about her. He has all of the complaints there. And he's just like, you're making my job hard. And I'm like, of course, we have in the background the idea that all of these San Magnolia people are living this wonderful life outside of Legion. Everything's fine. And there we go. You know, they're just having a humdrum time. Don't make me do the extra work for the sake of the damn 86. And if you look at his office, there's like all of these, he's got like the employee of the month like certificates up on the wall. He's got all these trophies behind him. He's got the flag, the giant portrait. Like, he clearly thinks highly of himself and believes he's this established colonel, lieutenant colonel, but he ain't doing jack shit. He's just sitting there. And she's like, I'm out here busting my balls while you're sitting here not doing a damn thing. So, okay. He's like, if you gave me permission in advance, you wouldn't have to tell me any of this. She's like, if you just did what I asked, it's fine. She's like, you and all of them are free to complain if you like, but it has nothing to do with me. And I love that. I love he just shoves the paper at her like, you brat. And she's like, fine, I don't care, bitch. She's like, I've been demoted. What are they going to do? Fire me? He's like, know your place. You're just a captain. She's like, do you want me to know my place? Because your subordinates' results reflect your own career. I love she just uses everything that he values against him in that moment. She's like, you seem like a man that really likes results and you like being praised. So if I'm your subordinate and I'm not doing a good job, well, that means that you're not doing your job and it reflects badly on you. So let me keep doing my job and doing it well. And you can keep sitting there comfortably. Thank you. Like, I love it. I love Lena being just such a boss bitch. I'm like, yes. She's like, if my Legion kill rate goes down, you risk not being promoted. So, right? I love it. I just, mwah. Lena is everything. I love her character so much in this. Lena is definitely my favorite character. I feel like we know her the most. We've spent the most time with her. We've gotten the most out of her character. And unlike Sheen, who is very mysterious, Lena, like, wears her heart on her sleeve. She just, like, lets all that emotion out. And I love that about her character. It's great. And she ain't afraid to get dirty. I like it. I like it. And so then, yeah, he just caves. Watch your mouth. Yeah, I love it. I love it. She's like, okay, thank you. Let me go do my job. Bye. Yep. So then we see all the upper brass walking with the uncle. Now, I am kind of a little bit sad that we didn't get to see the whole demotion thing, but you can kind of piece together the puzzle pieces to know what went down, and we don't necessarily need to see that. The uncle is curious because he's kind of dropped off in the story. We've not really gotten much more out of him. He's just there and clearly just being mysterious. I feel like there's still more with the uncle's character that we haven't got to yet, but I'm sure especially with what I think is going to happen with the whole Giad situation, we're going to get more with him. By him just kind of looking at her. And then I think what's interesting is, at first I thought it was Annette that ran up to her, but that's not the case. It was actually just some of the younger troops, the younger soldiers. They're all going to Lena to get information. And Lena is doing things with them, like having them do things. I really like this with her character because she is interacting. She's interacting and being a leader with them. Because it's kind of a nice little transition. Earlier on in the season, anytime she was near somebody else her own age within the San Magnolia army, she didn't really interact with them. They all kind of like looked down on her. They weren't really like, she wasn't interacting with them, but then she spoke up in the classroom and kind of was like, hey, sheeple, let's wake up. So it seems like these are some of those students that maybe heard her give that presentation months back, and they were like, hey, we want to get to know you better. You were saying some crazy things in that lecture with that teacher. What's going on? And being like, you're kind of the cool upperclassman. Can't teach us, senpai. Like, I feel like she's become a senpai to them, which is kind of cool. And I like the idea that Lena's like, you know what? If I can't go to the top and change things, because clearly I can't, I can't change things at the top brass. They're not going to listen to me. I can't change the situation that the 86 are in. So what I'm going to do instead is influence where I can, let that influence spread, and eventually it will hopefully spread out and make a difference. And I like that. I like that about Lena's character. She's just like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can, and that's all. That's the most I can do at this point. Right? I love it. And so she's like, our total attrition rates on the front lines. And that's when she gets the call. They see it's snowing outside. It's December 2nd. So it's, when I went back to start this episode over again, it said it was December 2nd. So it was like the day before the stuff we interact. So the stuff that we're seeing with Sheen and them is happening around the same time, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about, because it's snowing there on December 2nd. Now, granted, it was the day before, so there was no snow yet in Giad, which their environments could be totally different. It may snow in San Magnolia and not snow in Giad, but this was happening the day after the events that happened with Sheen and the others. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. And then Cyclops. I like Cyclops a lot. She reminds me a lot, if we're talking about Attack on Titan, she reminds me a lot of a freckled-faced character whose name I will not spoil. But she reminds me a little bit about her. I like Cyclops. She seems fun. She's probably going to die. But I like her character a lot. And then she's like, give me the report. And that's when Annette goes to see her. And she's like, you've already gotten started. She's like, sorry, I'm late. And then Annette, I like Annette's just like, come on. What's going on? She's like, get started with your chat. And she's got all this stuff pulled up. So, and they're using the para-raid equipment and taking it apart and redoing it. So they're modifying it, interestingly enough. So we don't actually see her get to fight with the others. They just get the report. So they're modifying some settings on the raid equipment, which is interesting. I don't know what Annette is helping her with, but maybe she's trying to like expand the raid equipment where she can talk to them outside. But that's not going to work anymore because the clips are gone. They have no way to communicate unless she can just randomly talk to Sheen. That's interesting too, because meanwhile at Giad, with the others, the para-raid equipment in their ears, and then they all had stuff on their neck, which I was like, did they have para-raid stuff on their neck? We're going to talk about that. I'm going to put a question mark there. Is gone now. So yeah, it's all gone now. So basically, even if Lena wanted to get a hold of them to communicate, it wouldn't work. She couldn't use it. So I'm thinking the only way she could possibly get a hold of them to talk with them is if she can somehow communicate with Sheen, because he happens to have the ability to communicate with people telepathically. So, and I think this Empress girl, Frederica, I think she's related to Sheen. I think that the royal family of Giad, or this certain bloodline of Giad, have the capabilities to talk telepathically. She's one of them. I think that her father or brother, one of the two, which it would be a really cool parallel, I think, if you had Sheen and Frederica, whose brothers were like their knights in shining armor, and they lost both of them to Legion. That would be kind of cool. Like, I would like if Sheen's brother Ray and her brother, who has a lot of anger issues, if they were brothers and they were like the knights that saved their siblings. Like, that would be kind of a cool motif that you could experiment with. But we'll see, right? And so then we see Lena, and she has the box with all of their faces in it, the little box she keeps of everybody, kind of like the box of tags that Sheen kept. But Sheen left the box of tags. He left it behind. So what we do? But there are no more flowers because they're all gone. And this part was interesting to me. They call her Queen. I love that they give her a name. I love her name is Queen, right? Which, we have a princess, we have a queen. Is Sheen a prince? I don't know. But we have a queen. And this part was kind of sad because she doesn't want to know. She knows their names. She knows that the one girl's name is Ida because she has a report, right? Because I like that we have her with her little fancy teacup and she drinks it. Then we cut to Cyclops and it's like a little broken tin cup. The parallels, right? They have a Christmas tree up in the background in the 86 barracks, which is kind of cute. And she's like, let's do the best to work together. And the girl laughs and says, of course. You're our handler and we're counting on you. It's such an interesting twist because, you know, the 86 that were in Spearhead, they originally didn't want to work with her. And then Cyclops seems very open to it. She's like, sure, I don't care. Let's do this. I'm all for it. I like Cyclops' design a lot. And she's like, I need the info that you give us from the battlefield. And she's just like, sure, it's okay to call me by my real name now, right? And she's like, if you aren't going to, why did you ask? Okay, so I like that we say Cyclops is Sheen Ida. And then we have Melusine, and that was another name of someone else, right? And the document in front of her says final orders. So I like this little note where Lena is kind of like, yes, I did ask for your names because they're important. And then she looks over to there and she goes, well, it's my responsibility as a handler, right? I really like this because it shows that Lena's grown a little bit, where before she was so open about wanting to know everyone and getting emotionally attached, and then she lost them all and it hurt. And she was like, you know, it made her suffer. And so she's like, I don't want to exactly go through that again. So she's a little bit more guarded. There's that little veneer of innocence that she had. Naivete is kind of gone, and she's matured a lot and kind of become her own, and she's the queen now, but she's learned her lesson. She's like, she still wants to know their names. She still wants to treat them as human, but she doesn't want to get as attached as she did before because there's a very good chance that they're not going to make it. So, yeah. I like that little showing of us there. But she still keeps on the board. She still keeps... And the thing about it is, too... If you look on the bulletin board, there's all the little thumbtacks like around this certain part. There are 5 little crumpled pictures. Anju. Anju's her name. It was driving me crazy. Not Emma. Anju. There are 5 little crumpled pictures in the corner. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of the others over here. So she's still keeping Sheen's pictures and the other 5 up there. Like, she's not giving up hope that they're still alive. She's keeping them in the corner. She's not tossing them away. You can see they're a little more crumpled up than the others, but she has put them over to the side and has the pictures of the new division that she's with on the little cork board as well. That's really cute, right? I like that a lot. It's nice. So, yeah, she's like, and they're like, you're always so serious and formal, you know? And she just kind of smiles. She seems a lot more like Sheen, and then she says, think what you like, which is a very Sheen thing to say. So, it's like Lena has taken a little bit from Sheen. Like, she's more serious. Which, I do hate the fact that that innocence is kind of lost. Like, that part, anytime a narrative has a character where they kind of lose that little gloss of innocence that they had, it's always really sad. But it's just what it is. She's just matured that way. And they're like, think what you like. And she's like, well, thanks to you, we might live a long time, though. And then she says, the strongest guy I know finally got sent on special recon a while back. And she kind of stops there, and you can kind of see where it hesitates. And yeah, she has the picture of all of them up there. You get a close-up of it. He's probably dead now. The headless reaper who always used blades. Ah, yeah. And then we see the picture of all of them in the center there. Who always used blades. Interesting. And Lena's just like, yeah. So I guess that is part of her hair. And they're like, which do you think is going to be first? Us going there or Legion coming here? That is the question. We don't know. Lena's like, there's no way to know for sure. And she's like, my job is to prepare for the large-scale Legion offensive that I think is coming. And she's got the map there. She's got it planned out. We see San Magnolia, all of that. Here's my thing. And I, again... the one gaping hole in this whole story to me at this point is they have evidence from the long-range auxiliary attacks that happened. They have evidence that the legions, they're not only their weaponry, but their tactics have been evolving. There's getting more and more in numbers. It's clear that stuff's being planned, and if Lena thinks there's this large-scale offensive coming, my thing is, why is she not, continuously trying to tell the upper brass about it? And I know that one answer could be, oh, well, they're not going to listen to her. But I'm like, if they don't listen to her, they're idiots. I'm sorry. That is the least realistic thing about this series as far as military strategy is I don't care what you think about her. If she's got boobs and you don't want to listen to her or whatever, but if somebody in your military is coming to you and saying, hey, here's some evidence of maybe a large-scale attack that could possibly, get past 86 and get to us, I don't know. Every other military I kind of know of would maybe take that seriously. They might look into it. They might evaluate it. Might check it out. Might see if it's legit. I don't know. But that part to me, I'm like, she clearly has this gathering data. You'd think the uncle would at least check into it. So either they're all really dumb, and then that's just anime dumbness, I guess. Either that, they're so arrogant, which that's dumb too. If they're so arrogant, they don't believe her that there could be a possible, that like, we don't need to worry about them. I'm like, yeah, you do. But whatever, if they genuinely think, because she had information too that Sheen told her that Legion wasn't going to be done in 2 years. They'd advanced their brains and everything to last beyond that. They're going to keep coming. If the military doesn't take that seriously, one, why don't they think she's telling the truth about the brains? That would be a problem. That if you're trying to keep up pretense with your people and you've been telling them and your military over and over again that it's only going to be 2 years, and suddenly you're presented with information that that's not the case, I'd check into that. That seems like something that'd be rather important. I don't know. So either they're just dumb and it's like cartoon dumbness that they just don't get it. They don't want to check into it. Like, we don't have to worry about the things the little lady says, which is dumb. Especially the uncle that knows better. Or they know that Legion is going to last more than 2 years. But then why have your military be under the pretense that it isn't? Are you expecting them to come in and kill you? Like, what? So, and they know they're running out of 86 because Sheen and them said that in their own camps, there's really nobody left. So that is the one gaping flaw to me so far, like, based on other series that I've watched, is that I'm like, you would think they'd be researching this, investigating this, seeing if there's any truth to what she's saying. Like, I keep waiting for the subplot where the uncle goes out and he's like, my niece keeps saying that there's going to be more Legion beyond 3 years. I keep waiting for the subplot where he goes to find out information and we learn something like the upper brass knows and there's some weird reason that they're not doing anything, or he finds out and maybe helps Lena out based on that. Like, I don't know. But the fact that if she's not saying anything to them, why not? And if she is and they're not listening to her, that's dumb. So, I don't know. That part is weird to me. That seems like just a big plot hole. Like, you'd think they'd look into that. But maybe we'll find out more. Maybe we will find out more about that. This large-scale offensive. Yeah. And I like that Cyclops, like, I decided to help you, but no preparations you make will change a thing. But you're going to do it anyway. And that's kind of what's frustrating, is that it's not going to make a difference. I'm like, military-wise, it should. It should make a difference. It's like, the plot has become stubborn to the point where you're just like, come on now, let's be real. But I'm doing it anyway. And she's like, okay. But don't forget your reports. I like that she reminds her about her reports, even though Cyclops is like, yeah. And then she has the picture of all of them that she keeps. I like that she keeps the picture and the note in her jacket pocket. I love that. And she's like, they told me to survive. And she took the black cat with her. That's so sweet. What'd she give her a name? They believed in me and told me to fight and survive. What did she give her a name? Is it Tebby? Yeah, Teppy. Teppy's really cute. Yeah. Okay, so then here's the thing with Sheen and his head, right? Because we see his head. They ended the episode with Sheen, and his head had a big, like, blood splatter against it, right? Had a big bloody splatter. So, we had that. And now we're back to Sheen. And at this point, I was like, okay, well, we ended last episode seeing him headless, like seeing his body headless, and his brother was taking him away. And it made you think that Ray was taking him to the other side, that he was dying, right? That he was dying, being taken to the other side. And for a second you think, well, maybe Sheen is becoming part of Legion because Ray was part of Legion, and there's like little remnants and like lingering effects of Ray's consciousness with the Legion army, and that's what the deal is. And we see Ray, like, I love Ray in the night outfit. I do like Ray a lot in the night outfit. It's very cute. And him with Sheen. And Sheen, it's kind of weird. I like Sheen not talking throughout all of this. I like him just being this little kid that's emoting happiness. Like, you could see the emotion that he's giving towards his brother, and his brother's a knight. It's super cute. I like it. But then they get to a certain point, and he's like, this is as far as I can go. So I guess while Sheen was out, maybe the spirit of his brother came to like guide him. Maybe Sheen was about to die, and his brother's like, no, but this is as far as I go. I've got to move on, and you have to go the rest of the way yourself. Okay? And then he's back in his normal clothes. And that's what he says, you've really grown up. It's kind of like the character when you're about to like die, and then but you see a white light and you go back to living, but your family or relative that passed on has to go. And he says, don't let me keep you a prisoner. So there is a part of Sheen that it's like Ray's memory was imprisoning him. That Sheen could not move on until he let Ray rest in peace, and he got to move on from there. He couldn't move on besides that. So I'm like, okay, which is fine. We made that a point in episode 9, and he's like, I'm going to let you move on now. You need to no longer worry about me. I'm okay, but you got to live your life. Don't let me make you a prisoner. Don't let me be your only purpose. Right? You can forget about me. And Sheen doesn't want to forget about him. He like shakes his head. He's like, no, you're my brother. I don't want to forget about you. And he's like, oh no. And he's like, I want you to remember me just once in a while. So I do like that. I like that Ray's like, look, I don't want you to completely forget about me. Just remember me every now and then, but don't make me your obsession. Because that's what Sheen had done. He had made Ray his obsession and his only purpose in life. And Ray's like, no, you got other things you can live for. Don't let me be the only thing. Like, come on. Don't let me do that. He's like, live free and be happy. As he said, and once in a while, just once in a while. He's like, be well. Okay. Which is interesting. So he's like, I want you to be free, be happy, and be well. Which is, be healthy, I guess. It's like live, laugh, and love. Ray's version of live, laugh, love. Be free, be happy, be well. Right? Which is interesting. And please be happy. And so, yeah. And then Ray disappears. He moves on. And Sheen keeps going back to him. So, he calls for his brother. And then there's something that happened there, right? What was the thing that threw at him? What was the thing that was thrown at him? Something got thrown at him, right? I want to see what it is. When he yelled for his brother, there was something that came over. Okay, what was it? I want to try to pause it. It looks like it was a piece of... Okay, it looked like... The thing about it is, it looked like for a second it was a piece of metal, or it was the Legion's claw that was going to take his head. But that didn't happen. So either this is all a big fake out. Either this is all a fake out. And none of this is real. And we're in some kind of weird simulation. We're in the Matrix. We're in the Matrix. We're in some weird simulation. And this isn't real. Or they just got saved. But my thing is like, it's not been that long. He was out for 3 days. He had all of this. Okay, there's some weird stuff going on from here on in. There's some weird stuff. It doesn't feel right. I keep waiting for the rug to be pulled out from under me and then be like, no, they're actually part of Legion and they've all been assimilated and they're all evil now. I keep waiting for it to happen because, like, one, his injuries are all fine. They're all healed up. It's only been 3 days, but they're fine now. I'm like, Karina had a head wrap on for 2 days when she bumped her head the last time they fought the Legion. Why is his injuries all healed up? The communicators are gone, which is a thing. I'm like, did they have para-raid equipment on the back of their neck? Or are they all being like plugged into the Matrix in the back of their neck and that's why that bandage is there? I don't know. And so he sees that he's in this room. He has 2 wristlets on. One is blue and one's red, which is like red pill, blue pill, Matrix. Am I right? He's got that, and he's like, what the fudge? And then he reaches for his neck, and it's still there. And that's when we see all the people in the hazmat suits. So my question is, why are they in the hazmat suits? Are they just afraid that they had some infectious diseases or something from the outside? Like, what the fudge? And then he's like, I just want to chat a little. Now, everybody on the outside of that room is telling him not to chat with Sheen. They're like, no, don't go in there. Don't do that. So I'm like, what? Why? But he's like, no, I just want to chat a little. And it's like, but what? And so then he shows up in the little hazmat suit. He's like, oh, hello, konnichiwa, hello. And he's like, can you tell me your name? Now, I think it's interesting. There's a lot of subversion here from what Sam Magnolia does. Here, with Giad, the first thing they ask is their name. That's the first thing that he asks him. And with Sam Magnolia, they didn't even want to know his name. They were pigs. They were subhuman. Not in Giad. Not in the magical, magical, wonderful rainbow land of Giad. No, he's like, the first thing he says is, will you tell me your name? It's like they're trying to find information. They're trying to breach security and find info about you. Don't give in. And Sheen just like, and he's like, oh, well, all the generals were really worried, so they made us wear this biohazard suit. So I'm like, why were they worried? And he's like, no. And I was like, it's rude to be wearing it. I like they're all sitting there like, no, please stop, sir. So then he comes out and he has this suit on. And he says his name is Ernst. He looks a little bit, at first I thought he was Sheen's dad for a second because he kind of looks like him. And he says, Ernst Zimmerman. And who are you? And so Sheen's like, well, I might as well tell him my name. And he's like, okay. And then he says, well, welcome to the Federacy of Giad. And he's like, Giad, which we know a lot of Giad has been destroyed. And he says, I should explain. And then he says, we defeated the Giad Empire that created the Legion, and we changed it into a federal republic. So, basically, at some point, the Republic, or the Federacy, I guess we should call it, or Federacy, because we had the Republic of St. Magnolia, I guess we should call it the Federacy. At some point, the Federacy defeated Giad, defeated them, that created the Legion, and took over. So they had their own war, right? They had their own war, took it over, now they have it, and they created a federal republic. Okay. But what does he say after that? Because of that, we're still fighting the remaining Legion. This part's interesting. So he says we took over, and we're still fighting Legion. I'm like, okay, all right. My thing is, why isn't Legion fighting back against them? Why does Legion keep going towards San Magnolia when there's actively another country that they could be fighting? And I don't think they're that far away, right? I feel like they're not that far away from where Legion, like, where is Legion coming from? If not from this place. That's the weird thing. It's like they're a Federacy, so, and their country looks all nice and shiny and everything looks happy hunky-dory, which we'll talk about. I'm like, well, where the hell is Legion coming from? What route? Where's their base? They said they were close to their base. Where are they originating from, if not this country? And why aren't they attacking this country that seems to still be fighting them? I don't know. We don't know. And so he's like, yeah. And Sheen's just like, okay. He said, we found you captured by the Legion on the western front of the war. All quiet on the western front. Am I right? Am I right? So yeah, I don't know where this toy is gone, Huckleberry. Don't have it. Sorry. But he's like, you were captured by the Legion. Yeah. So he said we found you captured by them. Yeah. Here's my thing. What do you mean you found them captured? Like, Sheen was dead. Like, how did you... Because you remember seeing everybody, like, yeah, everybody knocked out. And then saw the Legion go to kill him. And he jumps up and, like, has the neck stuff and everything. And he's like, oh, sorry. Well, of course you're worried. And then he shows them, like, everybody in the other room looking freaked out. What? Something's up. I don't know. It just seems like you can't tell me, like, Sheen literally was dying. They didn't interfere. How did they not? How'd they interfere? Why aren't you showing us that? Why aren't you showing us the rescue mission, right? I kept waiting for them to show us them showing up on the battlefield and finding them, but I'm like, how are they not part of Legion already? And are they Legion? And they discovered them and were like, oh, it's okay. Are they like, Sonny and Bean from Attack on Titan, and they're like in Titan bodies or something, and they're just interacting with him and we're just seeing it from their perspective? It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe we'll figure out something. He said you were sleeping, so he turned the windows opaque. Uh-huh. And then, yeah, he's like, neither you nor we understand what happened. That part is stupid to me. Explain. What do you mean you don't know what happened? How did they not get taken by Legion? Why did they suddenly stop? Why did they decide not to? Something's up. Either something is up or it's a major plot hole. Yeah. But when you could remember, if you could, and he's like, if you could tell us what happened, that'd be great. And I'm like, well, who saved them? I don't know. And he's like, the scary lady's gonna get mad at me. So is he talking about the Spider-Woman, or is he talking about the Empress? Interesting. Is he talking about the Empress in that moment, and she's gonna get mad? You're the first foreign visitors we've had since our nation's founding. That part was interesting to me as well, because they're the first foreign visitors they've had since their nation's founding. I mean, we're going to talk about this, because I'm like, how long has this nation been founded? Has it been a decade and nobody else has ever come from the other side? And he's like, we're too busy with the Legion to put together custom procedures. I'm like, but so is the Legion attacking you or not? Because it doesn't seem to be the case. Okay. And then he's like, I'm Ernst Zimmerman, the provisional. So, yeah, he says he's the provisional president of the Giad Federacy. So he's like interim, I'm guessing. And then we see them all walking away. And so, okay, I want to go back to this, because he like walks away and he's like, oh, I'm just this happy-go-lucky guy. But then we see him walking away. And I'm like, are they in a bunker? Are they in a lab? And he says, what does our analysis show? And so they're in like a Legion building facility, right? Is that it? There aren't agents of San Magnolia or any other country. Okay, and there's 5 different little pods, I guess, for each of them. But there's a Legion there that they're taking apart, so... But it says they aren't agents of San Magnolia or any other country, but they clearly are from San Magnolia. They're from 86. Okay. It says odds are they're a new type of Legion. Well, are they dead then? Is this all just in their brain? It says they're a new type of Legion, so is this all just imaginary? Because they're like above them. Is this all... What do they actually look like? Are we seeing them as they are because it's easier for us to see them like looking like they are? And when we see when Lena sees them, they're all going to be Legion robots. Is that what's going to be happening? Because it says they're a new type of Legion or a carrier for a Legion bioweapon. What? I don't understand. Yeah, how can they be a carrier of a bioweapon and they still be human? Our tests and the scans we did after we brought in show nothing irregular. And there's like all of them in their suits and everything. Okay, and the things they had with them. They're a slightly older model, but definitely Dinosauria. So it says the things they had with them are an old model. So it's the old Legion. So I'm like, are they Legion or not? Like, what the fudge? Why? Okay, he says, and the things on their ears. But it said that on their ears, so it's clearly, a communication device. It artificially recreates the mental links that a certain family is capable of. That whole thing that a certain family is capable of, I'm like, just tell us, damn it. Quit put us, like, what person in normal conversation would be like, it's that thing that a certain family has. Like, just say the family name. Get it over with. Yeah. It recreates the mental links. Okay. Interesting. It's revolutionary. The safest thing for the Federacy would be to eliminate them. Yeah, they're like, we should just get rid of them, and that's it, before they cause any internal damage. But the president doesn't seem to want to do that. The president's hiding a lot of things. The president has this like creepy undertone to him that there's just something about him. He's hiding something, or he feels guilty about something, or something is up. I just don't know why the Legion, I don't know how the Legion didn't kill Sheen. I don't know how that's the case. I don't know how they're all still alive. That seems like such a big plot hole when they've killed everybody else so far except these 5 for reasons. I don't know. Seems weird. But yeah. And then they all are like, I'm glad they're alive. It just seems kind of like, it's like these 5 can't die. They're the protagonists, it's just kind of like, I don't know. And then I like that Anju's like, seriously, why were you being suicidal and trying to kill yourself? Like, no. And then they're like, if you put that shit up again, I'll kick your ass. I like Theo saying that. He's like, you knew you would die if you fought alone. And he's like, we all have thought about it once, sure, but we didn't fall. But that's why we can't forgive it, because we understand and it's cheating. Like, we've all wanted to go off and play the hero and fight on our own. You can't be able to do it and get away with it. I don't know. Yeah, don't ever do that again. So I don't know. The only thing I can think of at this point is, were they spared because Sheen had the vision of the sister of the princess? The only thing I can think of that possibly saved them from becoming Legion fodder, it makes no sense otherwise, is that Sheen was able to mentally connect with Frederica, and she called off the Legion. That's the only thing I can think of. And is the president, is Ernst, is he keeping her with him to keep the Legion away? Because that would make sense. Okay, why is the Legion not fighting Giad? Is it because the little girl, her brother or father, is the leader of Legion, and because he's so dedicated to keeping her safe, he's keeping Legion away from Giad and attacking the other countries because they would try to hurt her? Is that it? I think that could be it. That he's just trying to protect the other country because that's his daughter or his sister or whatever, and he wants to keep her safe, so he's attacking all the other countries. But then why are they fighting Legion? I guess because they're like, well, I feel like the president's like kind of doing like a have your cake and eat it too. He's like, we want to stop Legion because obviously this force is a problem, but we also don't want them to attack our people, so I'm going to use this girl as a barrier, literally, while we attack and get rid of Legion so that they won't be a problem. Maybe. We'll have to see. And, I mean, who knows what happens now? Yeah, like at this point, what do we do, right? Meanwhile, he's like, oh yeah, from now on you're citizens of Federacy. So yeah, it's like everything is the polar opposite of San Magnolia. The first thing he wants to know is their name. Then he grants them citizenship. And then he takes them to town, which is the polar opposite. And then the townspeople are protesting in their defense. There's a part of it that seems too on the nose. It seems too much of the polar opposite, but I mean, it's fine. It just, some of it seems too good to be true, right? And I like that they've just got like the table of food and everything. And they're like, do you sure you want to take a bunch of strange kids who were kicked out of their old country as citizens? And he's like, well, do you want us to kill you? And he says, a society that refuses to save children because there's no benefit is a society which in the end benefits no one. I like the little Sailor Moon toy and everything. And if humanity can't survive except by killing children because they're strange, then humanity would be better off dead. What's so interesting here is that that's kind of not too far off from how Lena thought. Lena thought that they should be treated, with respect, and they should be welcomed with open arms, and that they're doing all this. Like, Lena said all this at the beginning of the series. The problem was Lena wasn't in a position of power to enact the changes necessary to make that happen. Here, this guy, if he's being true to his word and what he says here, is in a position of power. He's the interim president. He can make these things happen. So there is an ulterior motive there, I'm sure. But it's funny how that little change in how much power you have makes a difference over whether your words seem like they're an idealistic pipe dream or whether they're this big profound statement. Because even the way he says it, it's like it's this big profound ideology, and it's like, well, yeah, Lena had that ideology way back then. She just didn't have the power to enact it. So it's like, it's funny how the mood can change based on whether you are in the position to take it to the next level. And he says, I'll be your guardian for a while. He's like, I'm going to take you in and be your caretaker. So rest a bit and see this country and then go from there. So we have Sankt Glycine Base. Yep. The war machines that we recovered, the juggernauts. So they did find one of them, right? Okay. And it's starting to snow there too. Okay, good. There's that continuity. Yes. Their capability to decide what was done with them is amazing, and I'd love to hear more. Yeah, so I like the Spider Woman. She has a fun design. I feel like she's kind of a scientist, or she like has created these prototypes. And she's like high mobility combat data and people with actual combat experience against the data. So again, she's like, these people have fought in battle. They know what's up. I want to see them in combat, right? And we have a poster, we have a map of the territory behind them, and then there's the Federation of Giad flag and everything in the foreground. And there's this big group. They're perfect as operators for my prototypes. So again, what's interesting is even though we have these very different ideologies towards the 86, they're still using robots to fight robots. They're still doing the same thing. We're going to talk about that. She's like, they're operators for my prototypes. And she's like, they'd be wasted on those slow Vanagander. So I'm assuming if we're talking about this country being different than San Magnolia, then it looks like that the operators of these machines fighting the Legion that look similar to the Juggernauts. I like she's called Spider Woman because they do look like spiders. It seems like that the operators of those are the soldiers in their military. Like what San Magnolia should be doing is what Giad is doing, right? And she wants them to be operators as well because they fought the Legion firsthand. And I like that he's called Beetle and she's Spider Woman. And the president's like, look, you're free to talk to them, but I don't want them to be operators. Like they've fought enough, let them have some peace. But there is a really good statement in this where she talks about like she's been doing counseling with them and all they want to do is get back to the battlefield because that's all they've known. So it's like it's hard for them to adjust to a life, especially a life very different than what they've ever lived in after they've been in battle. I mean, there's a talk about, that connects to like being a veteran, trying to reassimilate into society after war. Like it's difficult and all you've known is the battlefield. So why would you want to go anywhere else? Like, and the Legion's still at large. So of course you want to go back because your friends and family have been dying at their hands, It's interesting. And we see a laptop back there on the table with a book or two that's there. He's like, we'd be no different from the Republic if we did that. And she's like, but that's all they want to do. So, okay. So we have like their names and stuff. Some of it's blurred out. Of course it is. But we see like the ethnicity on there. It says like Alban and something else. And then we have her ethnicity is Topaz and Agate is Karina's. Interesting. Okay, we can't see, of course, the ethnicity or anything of anybody else. Darn it. Meh. Okay. Huh. I mean, it's got their pictures and stuff on there, so I guess they're alive. It's just the weirdest thing. And so he's like, well, that's the battlefield's all that they know. So action should be met with rewards, and they fought for so long they should be given peace. Especially if their homeland refuses to do it. And so then they all show up there, and they get the tour of the city. And what does he say there? He says, I want the Federacy to be just. Because that is the ideal of mankind. I mean, yeah, that's a nice little pipe dream you got, sir. But we all know from this story and every other anime that talks about idealism in society that easier said than done. So, and I'm pretty sure this guy has a lot of blood on his hands. We just don't know it yet. Is he the one responsible for the leader of the Legion being killed? I don't know, Sheen saw that image in his head of some guy in that uniform that they're all wearing being shot twice. So what was up with that? I don't know. We're probably going to find out. We'll see. I don't know. He's like, that's the ideal of mankind. So yeah, then they're going on this little carriage ride and they get to go see the city and everything's like, everybody's all hunky-dory, just living their lives. It's all, there's some people that look like they're Albans, some that look like they're not. It's just, everybody looks so happy. And then they see people like defending the 86 and we see the statues like what we saw with Giad before in the rundown parts, right? Interesting. Yep. They're happy you were saved. And I'm sure that the 5 of them kind of feel a little bit like they don't want the people of the city to pity them and like be like, let's save these poor 86. You know, they don't say anything because they're like, well, we're all alive. We got saved, so can't really say much. And they probably don't know what to do with someone actually like standing up and protesting and advocating for them. So, I mean, that part's really interesting. But then they go to his house, his big old mansion, which is interesting. And they're all so awkward because like they've lived in barracks and like in this bare bone establishment, and they walk in and there's this nice lavish mansion. And then we have Frederica, who's like, you poor souls who are banished from your country. The question is she from a banished country? She's very theatrical. She reminds me of not Regina, but whatever her name is. It's from Ouran High School Host Club. It's like, wah-ha-ha-ha, that like rises up from the ground and spins. She reminds me of her. I like Frederica. She seems like she has a child voice actress, which is fine. Is it the same voice actress as Miri from Buddy Daddies? I don't know. She's like, your thanks are enough. Why are you looking away? Shut the door. Are you making fun of me? I love it. And they ask if it's his daughter. And he says, no. And she's like, do you think I'm the daughter of this lowly bureaucrat? So yeah, so she's a princess. She's clearly royalty. I'm thinking she is royalty. I'm thinking she might be related to Sheen, or Sheen is from a family who have this. I think she has the psychic powers too, and she can telepathically talk with people. She might be the reason they're alive. We don't know. But he's like, no, I've just adopted her. What do you say her last name was? Rosenfort. Frederica Rosenfort. And she says, and he's like, no. We don't want, some things happened and now she's staying here. The phrase some things happened seems like the biggest understatement of the century. So why is she staying there? What's the deal? I like that the lights behind her almost look like an interrogation light. Clearly, there's some stuff going on with her. I'm curious, right? What does she know and what's the deal? And he's like, well, it's annoying to explain to everyone, so I've got her down on paper as my daughter. I'm sure that's highly convenient of you. I don't know. He gives Daddy Warbucks vibes, but then I'm like, you clearly, there is something ulterior happening under the surface with this. Don't think that there's not, right? I mean, all that talk about idealism and everything, but I'm like, you're going to do something with these 5. I'm sure, right? Then we have Teresa, who's the maid. And they're like, well, you guys, I can adopt you as well, and you can call me Dad. And they're like, no. He gave off like Harry Potter Slughorn vibes, where Slughorn's a character in that series where he kind of like collects people. His thing is like he finds people with different talents that can like enhance himself, and he surrounds himself with them. And so the fact that he's kind of collected these 5 and her is interesting. Also, he said there was nobody else from a foreign country, and this girl I am pretty damn sure is probably from a foreign country. So, who knows? I could be wrong. Also, her and Sheen look so much alike, they have to be from the same bloodline. There's just no way. Or they're relatives or something. But they keep looking, and she's like, what is that on your neck? And that's when she asks, like, and he doesn't say anything, and the president's like, Federico, no. He says, I told you their situation. You have wounds that you don't want touched either. And she's kind of glum about that. And they're all kind of like, well, this is awkward. So she clearly has come from a bad situation. We don't know it fully yet. They all are kind of like, But I kind of wanted Sheen to talk to her, but Sheen is always so quiet naturally that it's like, And she's like, I'm the cute little sister you've been given to heal your wounds. Whatever that means. I mean, I'm sure it could just be her presence to get them to warm up to the country. She's like, the noble and compassionate Federacy is willing to give you. be very nice to me. I like her saying, be very nice to me. And of course, he like ruffles her hair. It's super cute. I like Sheen just has that kind of like big brother vibe, which is funny. I want Sheen to kind of become like a brother to Frederica, kind of like Ray was to him, but I don't know. So then we have Teresa. She's interesting. She's interesting working there for the household. I'm curious to know her situation and what the deal is with her. And then that's when the president comes in and says, you're tired, but I was holding on to this. It was in your war machine. And Sheen's like, oh, okay. And he's like, is it yours? And he gives it to him. And he's like, yes. And then he takes it. Meanwhile, she's like, thank you, Teresa. And kids that age eat a lot. It's fun to cook for them. And the president says, this is likely to be difficult. And she's like, no, it's fine. I don't mind cooking for multiple people. I'm fine doing that. Like, Teresa seems like a good egg. She doesn't seem to be bothered by it. She's like, no, it's good. And meanwhile, she's drawing. I feel like Theo and Frederica could get along very well because they both like drawing. They could bond over that. But then the president says, do you think it's a stupid way of trying to compensate for things? What are you trying to compensate for? That's the question. And we see her like stare at him from the coffee cup, and her face looks kind of chiseled there, which is interestingly enough. And he says, I'm using them as a replacement. A replacement for what? We have to find out, right? He says, no, they could never be a replacement. Every person is their own irreplaceable individual. Which I like that discussion. I like her saying that, no, everyone is special and individual. You can't replace them. So, but why is he wanting to replace? What is he wanting to replace? That's the question. And then I like Frederica says people still try to bury the past. They still try to get rid of it, even if it doesn't matter, in whatever way they can. People try to bury the past in whatever way they can. He's like, whom are you talking to, Empress? Oh, and then it shows her alongside all of them, and she has the red eyes, and Sheen has the red eyes. And we see Sheen holding... He looks very disturbed, right? With the piece there. And she says, Kiri. Uh-huh. But here's the thing. The piece of the ship didn't have Ray carved into it. Right? It did not have Ray carved into it, did it? The piece that was under the ship, the piece he's always had, I don't think it had Ray carved in it. Did it? I don't think it did. I don't recall it having Ray carved into it. I think, did she carve it in? I'd have to go back and look and see if it did or not. If it had it carved in it before. I don't think it did, because I think he was trying to I don't think he had the name on it. I don't know. Otherwise, why would Sheen look so disturbed having it unless he never thought he'd see it again? I mean, either one, he never thought he was going to see the piece of Ray's Juggernaut again because he had it with him. It was in, here's the thing. This is the weird part, right? The piece of the Juggernaut from Ray's Juggernaut was in the floorboard of Sheen's, and I'm sure that Sheen, that it was there when they confiscated the Juggernauts, apparently. I'm sure that they got that piece out. How'd they know it was Sheen's unless the Empress kind of figured it out, unless Princess figured it out and showed them. Either that and he never thought he'd see it again, or there's something else to it that we don't know yet. But who is Kiri? That is the thing. Who is Kiri that she's talking to? What is going on? Who are you talking? She says she's talking to Kiri, but who is it? Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. I don't know. Okay. Well, we'll see, I guess. So yeah, there's cracks all in the crevices of the Republic. The Republic has all these little cracks in the foundation. Surely not foreshadowing anything at all, I'm sure. My thing is everything looks too polished with Giad. For a country that has, here's the thing, everything looks too polished and too clean. There's some stuff up because it's like in any country that just went to war with the rest of Giad and like overtook it, everything just seems too fine. Like they're just like, it's okay. And I know that in San Magnolia it's like that, but that's because they're using other people as scapegoats and they've all barricaded themselves in and they're fine there. Is Giad the same thing that's just disguising itself as something different, or is it legit something different? I don't know. This series has made me very jaded to the concept it could be very something different, but we'll see, I guess. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what ends up happening now. I'm glad, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're all alive. It's just like, for making us suffer so much and then suddenly, oh, they're fine. I'm like, show, what you doing? What you talking about, Willis? Why you messing with us? So, I don't know. We'll see. I keep thinking there's going to be something, there's going to be like a rug pulled out and they're all going to be actually, the Matrix is going to fizzle and we're going to see them in the Legion and this has all been a grand illusion by the Empress. She's just made this an illusion. But we'll see. We'll find out, I guess. But in any case, I would say I'm looking forward to your comments, but I'm going to go forward without comments. So maybe one day when I get to the end of the season, I'll go back and reread them. So maybe I'll go back and reread them. I don't know. But I'm not going to make myself read any comments unless I want to. So in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. I hope you enjoyed this reaction discussion. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week and see what's happening with this show called 86. Bye.